Hey guys, that's done. So now it's time for the lining part. One of the things that I really like about oil paint, using it without turning it into a wash and having the more precise application, is that it's easier to control. Washes by their very nature are somewhat difficult to control for me. That's one of the problems also that I have with the enamel paint. I don't really know why I busted it out. I mean, I've had the stuff for a while. Some of the stuff is I actually do like. As far as that goes, there's a set that has like kind of like a really shiny dark oil color, and I like that because it's difficult to replicate like those kind of shiny stains like that. I tried it with asphaltum oil paint and varnish, and it actually looked fine, but you know, getting that consistency right every time is sort of, it's kind of, if I practice at it, I'm sure I could, but it was just a lot easier to buy that bottle of enamel paint, kind of thin it down a little bit, and then just use it that way. I think for me, I prefer to use the enamel in that application. They really reek though, that's the other thing, enamel paints reek. So what I'm doing is for any kind of, whether it's enamel or oil paint, it's called a pin wash. You want to make sure there's not too much liquid on the brush. The consistency should be, that's about good for wash consistency. Again, you want to unload the brush. You don't want too much on there. Again, it's approximately 70% thinner and about 30% paint. And then you touch it like if I want it to run into the crack. This is the great strength of this technique, is the capillary effect. It goes down through and around without you having to really do a lot of work. So that is why pin washes are good. Sometimes they can flow out though, so that's why it's important to monitor the amount of liquid you have in the brush. You don't want it flowing all over the place. And so I'm actually, this flat coat kind of turned this into a little bit of a almost satin surface. I went a little bit ham with the flat coat. So if you wanted a more matte covering, that's one of the things, if you did this, that's actually an advantage right now, because if you did this on a matte covering, matte surfaces kind of make the oil spread into unpredictable directions, and enamel can, same thing, will spread in unpredictable directions on a matte surface. So you just need to be advised. This rear part is more matte, so we'll see what happens. It went in there okay. And again, it's not really a big deal if it does, as long as you don't have too much, you don't flood the entire surface. If you get a little bit outside, it might look like just like a smudge or some grime buildup. So again, not the end of the world if that does happen. Just make sure that you get most of it out of the brush. All right guys, so our wash has dried. I'm just kind of inspecting to see if it got a little bit where I didn't want it. And so far so good. I don't see anything too egregious. If it had, you can take either your blending brush or whichever brush you choose, and then kind of go back in and clear off the areas where it got to, or you can, some people use a cotton bud. Something I've noticed about using cotton buds or Q-tips, if you prefer, is that they leave hairs, and that's kind of a pain sometimes. So however you choose to remove the excess wash is up to you, and if you didn't get enough wash in an area and you require more, simply go back to your mix, get some more of the wash. Should probably use the right brush. Go back to your wash, get a little bit on the brush, and then reapply. There may be a little bit of trial and error if you make your own. I found that when I make my own, it can be a little bit thin, so sometimes I need to err on the side of having a little bit more paint. The enamel wash is actually pretty pigment loaded, so that stuff I typically thin it a little because it's a bit too intense for me. So anyhow, I'm reapplying the wash in a couple areas, and again, if it gets to where you don't want it, just clean it out using your blending brush or a cotton tip, And that's it for this section. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.